Deep within the silent, shadowed architecture of the human cranium, nestled between the dual hemispheres of the thinking brain, lies a tiny, pinecone-shaped singularity that has quietly baffled anatomists, mystics, and philosophers for millennia. This minuscule structure, known to contemporary science as the pineal gland, and to ancient traditions as the seat of the soul or the third eye, occupies a position of profound geographic importance within our physical being. It sits at the absolute center of our neurological universe, a solitary watchtower perched above the subterranean caverns of the brainstem, bathing in the ceaseless rhythmic tides of cerebrospinal fluid. For generations, modern medical orthodoxy treated this pea-sized organ as little more than a vestigial relic of our evolutionary dawn, a biological appendix of the mind that had outlived its primitive usefulness, save for the mechanical secretion of a single sleep-inducing hormone. We were told it was a minor cog in the vast, complex machine of the endocrine system, a humble biological clock whose only duty was to tell the body when the sun had set. Yet, when we pull back the heavy curtains of conventional reductionism, a far more radical, expansive, and almost cosmic truth begins to crystallize. The pineal gland may be infinitely more important, more influential, and more intrinsically tethered to the fabric of human consciousness than we have ever been led to believe. To understand the true magnitude of this hidden sentinel, one must first look at how the universe embeds its deepest secrets in the smallest packages. We live in a culture that measures importance by magnitude, equating size with power and complexity with scale. We look outward to the staggering expanses of the night sky, or inward to the massive networks of the cerebral cortex to find meaning, completely overlooking the microscopic crucibles where matter and spirit truly interface. The pineal gland is precisely one of these crucibles. It functions as an organic bridge across an otherwise impassable chasm, connecting the dense, measurable reality of our physical biology with the ethereal, immeasurable landscape of subjective awareness. It is a biological translator, a crystalline antenna designed to capture the subtle, invisible frequencies of the cosmos and translate them into the chemical language of our earthly flesh. When we dismiss this tiny organ as a mere biological metronome, we commit a profound error of perception, mistaking the conductor of the entire psychological orchestra for a simple stagehand. The historical intuition of humanity has always rebelled against this reductionist dismissal. Long before the advent of electron microscopes and neurochemical assays, the ancient sages, pharaohs, and philosophers recognized that this specific point within the skull possessed an extraordinary, almost terrifying significance. In the sacred geometry of ancient Egypt, the Eye of Horus mirrors the cross-sectional anatomy of the human brain with astonishing precision, its central focus converging directly upon the pineal gland. The Vedic traditions of ancient India spoke eloquently of the Ajna chakra, the subtle energy center located between the brows, describing it not as a physical organ of sight, but as an internal eye capable of perceiving the underlying oneness of reality beyond the fractured illusions of the material world. Even René Descartes, the father of modern rationalism, could not escape the intuitive pull of this anatomical mystery. In his search for the precise point where the immaterial mind exerts its influence over the physical body, he bypassed the massive structures of the cerebral cortex and pointed his finger directly at this solitary, unpaired gland, declaring it to be the very seat of the soul. These diverse cultures and thinkers, separated by vast oceans of time and geography, were all tuned into the same fundamental frequency. They understood that the pineal gland was the ultimate frontier of human experience, a cosmic doorway hidden in plain sight. In the light of contemporary discovery, this ancient mysticism is beginning to look less like primitive superstition and more like an advanced, symbolic understanding of human biology. We are discovering that the pineal gland is not merely a passive responder to environmental light, but an active, dynamic generator of our internal reality. Structurally, it is an anomaly of nature. Though buried deep inside the absolute darkness of the skull, protected by layers of bone and membrane, the interior of the pineal gland is lined with photoreceptor cells that are remarkably similar in structure to the rods and cones found within our physical eyes. It is, quite literally, an internal eye, complete with a cellular lens and a direct neurological connection to our visual pathways. Why would an organism evolve an eye deep within total darkness unless that eye was meant to perceive a different kind of light altogether? This anatomical paradox suggests that the pineal gland is designed to look inward, to illuminate the vast uncharted landscapes of the subconscious mind, and to perceive dimensions of existence that lie far beyond the narrow spectrum of visible light that our outer eyes use to navigate the material world. Furthermore, the biochemistry of this tiny gland reveals a level of alchemical genius that borders on the miraculous. It is the central factory for melatonin, a molecule that does far more than simply induce sleep. It acts as a master antioxidant, a cellular rejuvenator, and a profound regulator of our genetic expression. When the pineal gland is functioning at its zenith, it doesn't just manage our circadian rhythms, it orchestrates the entire chemical symphony of our vitality, emotional balance, and spiritual receptivity. There is an increasing body of thought suggesting that under specific conditions of deep meditation, sensory deprivation, or profound mystical expansion, the pineal gland can alter its traditional biosynthetic pathways. It has the potential to hypersynthesize endogenous compounds that radically alter human perception, opening the floodgates to transpersonal experiences, vivid visionary states, and moments of unitive consciousness where the illusion of separation dissolves entirely. When we contemplate the possibility that the pineal gland is more important than we were told, we are forced to confront the unsettling question: why has this vital aspect of our anatomy been so consistently minimized and neglected by modern society? The answer may lie in the very nature of our hyper-rational, industrialized world. A society built on external production, relentless consumption, and material distraction has little use for an awakened internal eye. An active, fully calcified and dormant pineal gland ensures that a person remains anchored exclusively in the external world, reacting only to the physical stimuli of survival, competition, and material desire. By contrast, a vibrant, fully awakened pineal gland acts as a solvent to societal conditioning. It grants an individual access to an internal wellspring of sovereignty, intuitive wisdom, and universal connection that cannot be bought, sold, or regulated. It shifts our primary orientation from the frantic chaos of the outer world to the serene, infinite geometry of the inner universe. As we stand on the precipice of a new era of human self-discovery, the reclamation of the pineal gland becomes more than a curiosity of alternative health or esoteric philosophy. It emerges as an urgent evolutionary imperative, and we are being called to awaken this sleeping giant within our minds, to clear away the calcification of modern life, and to restore this central pillar of our biological architecture to its rightful place. By doing so, we do not merely optimize our sleep or balance our hormones, we re-establish our connection to the deeper rhythms of the cosmos. we begin to realize that we are not isolated fragments wandering through a cold, mechanical universe, but localized expressions of a vast, living, and intelligent totality. The pineal gland is the key that unlocks this cosmic perspective, reminding us that the greatest mystery in the universe does not lie across the reaches of interstellar space, but within the sacred, silent center of our own being. To fully appreciate the hidden architecture of the pineal gland, one must venture beyond its basic anatomical definition and explore the core themes that govern its existence. At the very heart of this exploration is the concept of biological transmutation, the idea that this tiny organ serves as a supreme alchemist within the human form. Every single day, the pineal gland engages in a silent, miraculous conversion, taking the raw, physical data of environmental light and dark and transforming it into the subtle, invisible currency of neurochemistry. This process is not a simple mechanical reaction. It is a profound translation of the macrocosm into the microcosm. The sun rises, and the pineal gland registers the incoming wave of photons, signaling the body to awaken into the theater of material reality. And the sun sets, and the gland begins its nocturnal alchemy, converting serotonin, the molecule of waking confidence and worldly engagement, into melatonin, the molecule of rest, repair, and subconscious exploration. Through this rhythmic dance, the pineal gland acts as a living bridge between the cosmic movements of our solar system and the intimate cellular rhythms of our internal biology, demonstrating that we are intimately woven into the celestial tapestry above. This theme of translation reveals a deeper, more fundamental truth about the nature of human perception. The reality we experience every day is entirely dependent on the chemical lenses crafted by our endocrine system. We often operate under the comforting illusion that our eyes are transparent windows looking out onto an objective, static world. And in truth, our eyes are merely sensors capturing a tiny fraction of the electromagnetic spectrum, and it is the brain, heavily influenced by the chemical secretions of the pineal gland, that constructs the vibrant, three-dimensional movie we call life. When the pineal gland is functioning at a standard baseline level, it produces a chemical cocktail that anchors us firmly within the parameters of ordinary survival consciousness. It keeps us focused on the immediate physical environment, ensuring we can navigate traffic, balance bank accounts, and respond to the practical demands of the material plane. However, if the pineal gland's chemical output is shifted, even slightly, the entire fabric of perceived reality changes with it. This reveals that the boundaries of our world are not fixed walls, but fluid horizons that expand or contract based on the vitality of this central sentinel, L. This fluidity of consciousness brings us to the profound theme of the illusion versus the underlying truth of existence, a concept that has occupied the minds of mystics and philosophers across every major civilization. In many esoteric traditions, the material world is described as a veil, a beautiful, intricate illusion that masks a deeper, unified field of living intelligence. The physical senses, while highly effective for physical survival, are inherently dualistic. They divide the world into self and other, inside and outside, past and future. The pineal gland, sitting at the exact center point of the brain's dual hemispheres, represents the transcendent third factor that reconciles this duality. It is the anatomical anchor of non-dual awareness. And while our two physical eyes look outward to perceive the world of multiplicity, division, and contrast, the internal eye of the pineal gland is designed to look inward to perceive the underlying oneness that connects all things. When this internal eye is awakened, the rigid boundaries of the ego begin to soften, allowing an individual to see past the superficial illusions of separation and glimpse the profound, interconnected network of life that sustains the cosmos. Crucial to this understanding is the concept of calcification, which serves as a powerful metaphor for the modern human condition. In the physical realm, the pineal gland possesses a unique vulnerability because it is not protected by the blood-brain barrier and enjoys a massive, highly concentrated supply of blood. It is uniquely susceptible to accumulation. Over time, exposure to environmental toxins, artificial chemicals, synthetic fluoride, and the chronic stress of modern living causes the pineal gland to develop a hard, crystalline crust of calcium phosphate. This process, known medically as calcification, effectively turns a vibrant, fluid, and light-sensitive antenna into a calcified stone. Symbolically, this is the literal petrification of human intuition. As the gland calcifies, our capacity for deep spiritual insight, vivid dreaming, and spontaneous cosmic wonder begins to atrophy. We become trapped in a purely material paradigm, entirely dependent on external validation, rationalistic dogma, and sensory gratification. The calcified pineal gland is the physical manifestation of a disillusioned soul, a state of being where the magic of the universe has been replaced by the cold, mechanical monotony of a predictable, mechanized existence. Conversely, the theme of decalcification and activation represents a journey of reclamation and remembering. To clear away the accumulated debris from this internal crystal is to engage in a profound act of biological and spiritual rebellion. It requires a conscious departure from the synthetic, hyper-stimulated lifestyle of the modern world and a return to the pristine, organic rhythms of nature. As the physical tissue of the gland is purified and its crystalline structure is restored to a state of fluid resonance, its capacity to conduct higher frequencies of consciousness is reestablished. Well, this is not merely about achieving better sleep or enhancing cognitive function. It is about restoring the human instrument to its proper tuning. A purified pineal gland begins to operate like a finely tuned radio receiver, capable of picking up the subtle, high-frequency signals of universal intelligence that are constantly moving through the ether around us. It shifts our primary state of being from one of perpetual anxiety and separation to one of deep trust, profound intuition, and effortless alignment with the natural flow of the universe. Ultimately, the core theme of the pineal gland is the democratization of the mystical experience. And for centuries, humanity has been taught to believe that access to the divine, the transcendent, and the infinite is the exclusive domain of a select few, sages hidden away in remote mountain caves, or specialized religious authorities who act as gatekeepers to the sacred. The biological reality of the pineal gland shatters this artificial hierarchy. It reveals that the apparatus for cosmic connection is built directly into the universal anatomy of every single human being born unto this earth. It is a birthright, an evolutionary seed planted within the soil of our physical bodies, waiting for the right conditions to sprout. We do not need external intermediaries, elaborate dogmas, or distant pilgrimages to experience the profound sacred architecture of existence. We only need to turn inward, to honor and awaken the brilliant, crystalline compass that has been quietly waiting at the center of our minds since the very moment of our creation. To venture deeper into the mystery of the pineal gland is to step out of the sterile light of the modern laboratory and enter the timeless theater of myth, allegory, and symbol. Throughout human history, the most profound truths about our nature have rarely been communicated through raw data alone. Instead, they have been preserved in the fluid, evocative language of story. One of the most striking and universal symbols associated with this central gland is the pine cone, an emblem that appears with uncanny frequency across the sacred art and architecture of vastly different civilizations. In the ruins of ancient Mesopotamia, winged genii are depicted holding pine cones toward the heavens or touching them to the heads of kings to symbolize the transmission of divine life and spiritual illumination. In Greece and Rome, the thyrsus, a sacred staff carried by Dionysus and his followers, was topped with a prominent pine cone, representing the wild, transcendent ecstasy that shatters the rigid structures of the rational mind. Even within the highly guarded, stone-carved architecture of the Vatican, one finds the massive bronze Fontana della Pina, a towering, colossal pine cone flanking a courtyard, symbolizing the supreme seat of spiritual authority and the ultimate source of illumination. This recurring image of the pine cone is far from an accidental aesthetic choice. It is a brilliant, multi-layered allegory for the process of spiritual awakening. The pine cone is a masterpiece of natural geometry, its scales arranged in a flawless Fibonacci spiral that mirrors the mathematical blueprint of unfolding galaxies, nautilus shells, and hurricanes. It represents the inherent intelligence of the cosmos embedded within the physical world. Furthermore, the behavior of the pine cone itself holds a profound symbolic lesson for human consciousness. In its natural state, a pine cone remains tightly closed and sealed when conditions are cold, damp, or hostile, protecting its precious inner seeds from the harsh external elements. It is only when exposed to the warmth, radiance, and golden light of the sun that the pine cone opens its scales, unfolding its structure to release its potential into the world. This is the exact journey of the human mind. When we live in the cold, damp climate of fear, survival, and chronic stress, our internal eye remains tightly closed, locked away in the fortress of the ego. It requires the warmth of conscious awareness, the fire of introspection, and the light of higher understanding to coax this central gland into opening its crystalline scales, allowing the seeds of true genius, intuition, and cosmic vision to scatter across the landscape of our lives. Another deeply resonant allegory can be found in the ancient biblical narrative of Jacob at the river crossing, a story that reads remarkably like a symbolic blueprint for the biological activation of the mind. In the tale, Jacob finds himself utterly alone at night, facing a profound existential crisis. He encounters a mysterious, divine being, and the two engage in a fierce, exhausting wrestling match that lasts through the pitch-black darkness of the night. As the dawn begins to break, Jacob refuses to let go until he receives a blessing. And the being blesses him and changes his name to Israel, signifying a profound transformation from a deceptive wanderer to one who prevails with the divine. Crucially, the narrative notes that Jacob names the sacred place where this transformation occurred, Peniel, declaring, "For I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved." The linguistic and phonetic resonance between the biblical Peniel and the anatomical Peniel is a striking key that unlocks a deeper, esoteric meaning. The dark night of the soul, the fierce wrestling match with our own shadow, and the refusal to succumb to the illusions of the ego are all part of the internal alchemical process. It is only through this intense inward struggle, at the central point of our being, that the dawn of higher consciousness breaks, allowing us to see reality face to face and emerge fundamentally transformed. And to further illuminate this inner architecture, we can look to the ancient Eastern mythologies surrounding the god Shiva, often depicted sitting in deep, unmoving meditation amidst the icy peaks of Mount Kailash. Shiva is famously known as the wielder of the three eyes. His two outer eyes represent the dual forces of the sun and the moon, navigating the manifest world of time, space, and action. However, in the center of his forehead rests the terrifying and magnificent third eye, an organ of absolute perception that remains closed during ordinary cosmic cycles. The myth states that when Shiva opens his third eye, a blinding, incandescent beam of pure cosmic fire shoots forth, instantly incinerating whatever lies in its path. In the popular imagination, this is often viewed as an act of destruction, but in the realm of sacred philosophy, it is an allegory of ultimate liberation. But the fire of the third eye does not destroy the beautiful fabric of creation. Rather, it burns away the illusions of separation, the falsehoods of the ego, and the dense, calcified misconceptions that blind us to the eternal nature of reality. To open the pineal gland is to unleash this internal fire, allowing it to consume the artificial identities, societal conditioning, and limiting beliefs we have gathered throughout our lives, leaving behind only the indestructible, radiant truth of who we actually are. These diverse symbolic narratives, spanning thousands of years and varied cultures, ultimately converge upon a single, inescapable truth. The human body is not a random collection of tissues and organs, but a living temple designed for the realization of cosmic consciousness. Boo. The pineal gland is the holy of holies within this temple, the central altar where the physical and the metaphysical meet in a sacred marriage. When we read these ancient myths not as historical accounts of external events, but as subjective maps of our own internal anatomy, the world undergoes a radical shift. We realize that the legendary quests, the miraculous transformations, and the divine encounters spoken of by the ancestors are not distant fairy tales, but immediate possibilities waiting to be realized within the dark, silent chambers of our own brains. The pine cone, the crossing at Pineal, and the fiery eye of Shiva are all whispers from the past, reminding us that we hold the master key to the universe right between our temples, quietly waiting for us to remember how to turn it. To transition from the lofty heights of cosmic symbolism to the practical realities of daily life is to understand that a spiritual truth is only as valuable as its ability to transform our immediate experience. If the pineal gland is indeed an internal eye, an alchemical crucible, and a gateway to higher consciousness, then maintaining its health and vitality becomes one of the most practical, down-to-earth responsibilities we can undertake. In the modern world, this requires a deliberate, mindful strategy to counteract the invisible forces that contribute to its calcification and dormancy. The first step in this real-world integration is a conscious evaluation of what we introduce into our physical bodies. Because the pineal gland acts as a magnet for mineral toxins due to its immense blood flow, reducing our exposure to synthetic chemicals is paramount. And this means choosing pristine, natural water sources, seeking out organic, whole foods that are free from synthetic pesticides, and being highly discerning about the personal care products we apply to our skin. By consciously purifying our physical intake, we stop the internal petrification of this delicate organ, creating a clean, fluid environment where its crystalline structures can vibrate at their natural, optimal frequencies. Beyond the realm of nutrition, the most profound way to activate and support the pineal gland is to realign our lives with the primordial rhythms of nature. We live in an era of unprecedented light pollution, where artificial screens, fluorescent bulbs, and glowing devices subject our eyes to a perpetual synthetic daytime. And this constant exposure to blue light well into the evening hours utterly confuses the pineal gland, suppressing its ability to synthesize melatonin and throwing our entire hormonal architecture into a state of chronic chaos. To remedy this, we must practice a form of circadian hygiene. This involves greeting the natural morning sun with our bare eyes shortly after waking, signaling to the master clock in the brain that a new day has commenced. Conversely, as darkness falls, we must consciously dim our environments, banishing the harsh glare of technology and allowing the twilight to coax the pineal gland into its nocturnal alchemy. By mimicking the ancient dance of day and night, we restore the biological metronome of our body, leading to deeper sleep, enhanced cellular repair, and a profound sense of grounded vitality during our waking hours. Furthermore, the cultivation of breath and specific meditative practices serves as a direct mechanical catalyst for pineal activation. When we engage in deep, rhythmic, diaphragmatic breathing, we alter the intrathoracic pressure within our bodies, creating a powerful upward pump that accelerates the flow of cerebrospinal fluid up the spine and into the chambers of the brain. As this fluid moves rhythmically through the central aqueduct, it bathes and exerts mechanical pressure upon the pineal gland. This pressure can stimulate the tiny calcite crystals embedded within the gland's tissue, generating a piezoelectric effect. In essence, the mechanical stress of our breath transforms into an electrical charge, awakening the dormant photoreceptors of the internal eye. And this is why, during moments of profound, breath-centered meditation, individuals often report seeing flashes of brilliant light, geometric patterns, or experiencing a sudden, overwhelming wave of euphoria and clarity behind their closed eyelids. It is not an illusion. It is the physical chemistry of the brain shifting under the influence of a fully awakened internal antenna. The real-world implications of this awakening extend far beyond personal wellness. They fundamentally alter how we navigate the psychological terrain of the modern world. A person with a vibrant, uncalcified pineal gland possesses an innate immunity to the chronic anxiety, fragmentation, and manipulation that define contemporary society. And because this gland is the biological anchor of intuition, its activation sharpens our internal compass, allowing us to sense the underlying truth of a situation past the superficial noise of media, propaganda, and societal expectation. We become guided by a deep, quiet, internal knowing rather than the erratic winds of external opinion. This shifts our primary state of being from a reactive mode of survival, fear, and competition to a creative mode of trust, inspiration, and collaboration. We begin to see the world not as a collection of hostile, isolated fragments to be conquered, but as an interconnected ecosystem of which we are an intrinsic, purposeful part. Ultimately, integrating the mystery of the pineal gland into everyday life means reclaiming our status as sovereign co-creators of our reality. It forces us to realize that the quality of our days is determined not by the external circumstances we find ourselves in, but by the chemical and spiritual lenses through which we perceive those circumstances. When we take active responsibility for the care, purification, and activation of this central watchtower, we are no longer passive leaves blown about by the gales of fate. We become active conduits for higher intelligence, bringing the harmony, geometry, and wisdom of the inner universe down into the material plane. We walk through the world with a sense of quiet magic, knowing that the doorway to the infinite is not a distant destination to be reached after death, but a living, breathing reality that we carry with us in every single moment, right at the center of our minds. We have journeyed from the silent anatomical chambers of the human skull to the grand expanses of cosmic mythology, and back down into the practical, rhythmic habits of our daily existence. Through this exploration, a singular, magnificent truth has continually crystallized before us. The pineal gland is far more than a simple gland. It is a profound monument to human potential, a sacred architectural feature built directly into the fabric of our biology. It stands as an enduring, living proof that we are not merely accidental bioproducts of a cold, indifferent universe designed only to survive, compete, and fade away into the dirt. Rather, we are sophisticated, multidimensional instruments designed to perceive, anchor, and express the infinite intelligence of the cosmos. The pineal gland is the ultimate crown jewel of this design, the silent, central watchtower that has waited patiently through millennia of human distraction, calcification, and forgetfulness for us to finally turn our attention inward and remember who we truly are. To look upon this tiny organ with new eyes is to receive a profound transformational call, a call to step out of the mechanical, disillusioned paradigm of modern life and step into a reality imbued with living magic, deep intuition, and sovereign wisdom. The calcification of our third eye is not a permanent sentence. It is a temporary sleep, a veil that can be dissolved the moment we choose to align our lives with the pristine, primordial laws of nature. Every conscious breath we take, every pure drop of water we consume, every moment we spend bathed in the natural radiance of the morning sun, or enveloped in the sacred silence of the midnight dark, is a radical act of purification. It is a direct message to our internal biology that we are ready to awaken, that we are ready to clear away the hardened crust of societal conditioning and allow the brilliant crystalline lens of our intuition to shatter the illusions of separation that keep us small, anxious, and afraid. As we move forward from this space, let us carry the remembrance of the pineal gland not as an esoteric curiosity or a piece of intellectual data, but as a living compass that guides our every interaction. And let us understand that the deep peace, the profound unity, and the visionary inspiration we so desperately seek in the outer world can never be found out there, for they are already blooming as a chemical and spiritual reality within the sacred sanctuary of our own minds. The doorway to the infinite is open, resting quietly between our temples, vibrating with the silent music of the spheres. We need only close our physical eyes to the frantic chaos of the manifest world, trust the quiet, unwavering guidance of our internal eye, and boldly step through the threshold into the radiant, interconnected totality of the living cosmos.